This video is for people considering getting their very first Leica camera, specifically either the Leica Q2 or the Leica Q3. I've owned the Leica Q2 for quite some time and I've really enjoyed the experience, especially on my street photography missions out there. 3 of my images taken with the Leica Q2 has actually been selected and are now exhibited at a fine art gallery up here in Oslo. That is really cool. So I think it would be a great idea to shed some light on the practical differences between these two cameras. That's what we care about here on the channel, the practical use actually being out there in the field taking photos. So have that in mind for this video. Is it worth upgrading from the Leica Q2 to the Leica Q3? And which one should you get if you are getting your very first Leica camera? Let's find out in this video. I've divided this section into the practical differences and the technical differences, where I think the practical differences matter more. That's when we are out in the field actually making art with our camera devices, and that is what really matters. The first one and the obvious one is of course the screen. Leica has upgraded the Q3 with a tilting screen, which gives you more flexibility. To me that doesn't really matter. I kind of like that it didn't have that on the Q2, because then I got more connected with the subject and the scene I was shooting, because I was actively using the viewfinder more. In practical terms, it made me shoot more intentionally, and I didn't shoot as much from the hip, meaning getting hundreds of the same-ish photos, meaning less photos to sort through, which is obviously a good thing. So I really like that about the Q2, but the Q3 obviously has to keep up with all the other camera brands, so it made sense to upgrade with the tilting screen. Then we have to talk about the megapixels. That has increased on the Q3. The Q2 have 47 and the Q3 have 60, and even by 2023 standards, that's a lot of megapixels. 25 megapixels is more than good enough for most things in my opinion, but the Leica Q2 and 3 has a really cool and practical feature that I've used quite a lot on the Q2, and that is the cropping feature that goes for both cameras. So you can crop from 28mm to 35 to 50 to 75 on the Q2 and then to 90 I think on the Q3. It feels like you have 3 or 4 extra lenses with you. I like this feature. I've used the 35 and sometimes even the 50mm crop feature quite often. However, I would rather move away or towards a subject I'm shooting to avoid cropping. But with all those megapixels, you have plenty of room to crop in if you need to. Now let's talk burst mode. On the Leica Q2, you have a 20 frames per second burst mode versus 15 on the Q3. I don't really care about that. I don't shoot that fast burst anyway, and you have longer battery life on the Q2 versus the Q3. Guess it has to do with the technology and the processor and all that stuff inside of the camera. On the Q3 you have an upgraded feature which is wireless charging. I think you have to get the battery grip, which is of course extra and of course insanely expensive because Leica. But it's a cool little upgrade right there. It's so cool that you have to pay $195 for the grip and additional $175 US for that charging plate. And that coolness sets you back $370 US. Again, Leica. And I think that's about it for the practical differences I care about between these two cameras. Now let's talk a little bit about the technical differences, and that would be the new processor. On the Q2 you have the Maestro 2 processor, on the Q3 you have a Maestro 4. So it's probably a lot faster, but in practical terms, would I ever think, thank God I have the new Maestro 4 processor rather than that crappy old Maestro 2 on the Leica Q2? Probably not. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Then you have a much faster electronic shutter on the Q3 at 1/40,000 of a second, I think, versus 1/16,000 of a second on the Q2. I've never used shutter speeds that fast and I don't see where I would need it, but they are there to keep up with technology. And then the Q3 also has phase autofocus. The autofocus is probably improved, but it was already great on the Q2 from before, so in practical terms, I don't think I would see or notice any differences. Maybe if you have tried the Q3 and the Q2, you would know. You can let us know down in the comments. That would be really interesting. Then you can also record 8K video versus 4K video on the Q3. This is not really a video camera, so I don't really care about that. I never used the video feature on my Q2. It was purely for street and travel photography. But it's there. So which one should you get? And I think you have three choices here. The first one is if you have all the money in the world, you have the budget for it, and you don't have a Leica camera and you know you really want it, I would say go for the Q3. It's $5,995 and that's only $200 more than a brand new Leica Q2. Then there's the next option, which would be getting a brand new Leica Q2. Which makes no sense, to be quite honest with you, since it's only $200 less than a brand new Q3. So scratch option number 2, do not get a brand new Leica Q2 unless you're a collector. Do they really exist, Leica camera collectors? I don't know. That leads us on to the third option, which is perhaps the most interesting option, I think, and that is to get a Leica Q2 secondhand, and you can score some amazing deals on it. That's what I did. I think I got mine for $4,100. That was with the thumb support, the grip. I got a filter, memory card, the leather half case, and the box was in mint condition. So that's a great deal, and I've seen them as low as $3,800 with extra accessories. Something to think about if you want to scratch that Leica itch, if you want to see if Leica is for you. And you could probably sell the camera for the exact same if you decide to sell it. That's how I test out so many different camera brands. That piques my interest. I wait for a good second-hand deal, and if it's not for me, I just sell it. No money lost, and I got to test a new camera. And that's really the great thing about Leica cameras. It holds its price really well when you buy it secondhand. They are quite popular, so it's also very easy to sell if you decide it's not for you. What to be aware of when owning a Leica camera. The first thing is the price. When I was out shooting my street photography or travel photography, I was a little bit worried about the camera when it was hanging from my shoulders or around my neck, that it would get scratched because it's such an expensive piece of gear. Of course, there's the chance of getting robbed because that logo, the Leica logo, could attract unwanted attention, especially some places out in the world where it would be interesting to go and take photos. Then the next thing is, will you actually use it? That's also something to consider. If you pay that amount of dollars for such a camera, you better use it. It's a great user experience, at least the Q2, and I suspect, of course, the Q3 is the same. Then there's the extra cost of all the accessories. It comes at a very steep premium, so something to think about. To repeat myself a little bit, I focus on being out in the field, actually using my gear to take awesome photos. Not so much the latest and greatest in technology, which is incremental at best, but with the Leica Q2 now being 4 years old, it made sense with this upgrade. So based on this, what would you say is the best camera for you? Let us know in the comments. That would be really interesting. And I hope this gave you some perspective on what camera you should get, because I don't think there's that much of a difference between the Q2 and the Q3 when you are out using your camera, if you know what you're looking for. Of course, you have all these technical specifications that looks great on paper, but in real world practical use, does it really matter? So if you like this video, you might want to check out this one after, and that's it for now. Hope to see you in the next video. Please remember to subscribe and like this video. Also ring that bell to stay up to date for future content here from this channel. Right, bye bye.